All right, good evening, everyone. At 6 o'clock, we're going to call to order the May 21st, 2025 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Short circuit myself. Jamie, if you would do me a favor and take attendance.
Mr. Bronco?
Present.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Donaldson?
Here.
Mr. Gannon?
Here.
Ms. McCartney? Here. Mr. McTeague?
Here.
Ms. Scott? Here. Mr. Scheckman?
Present.
And Chair Weymouth?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we move into the meeting, if I could get an approval of the minutes for the April meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, now we get to the public swearing-in portion. If you are going to speak tonight, please rise and take the oath.
Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give at this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Yes, thank you.
I've got two sign-in forms here, and there were a lot of people standing up. So in the back of the room, there are sign-in forms that look like this. If you would please fill it out so that we know who to call. Is it the board's desire to make the staff recommendations part of the records for each item and just do it all at once so we don't have to read it in on every item?
Yes.
I heard a resounding yes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're going to get started with case number UDP Z24004, and let's start with disclosures, starting at the far end. Who do I have down there? Mr. Scheckman.
No disclosures.
I spoke to the applicant's attorney and did a site visit and received correspondence from many, many people, some in favor, some opposed.
I received correspondence from people as well, and then I exchanged voice mails with applicant's counsel.
Received correspondence.
Steve?
Received correspondence from various folks and spoke with the applicant's attorney over the phone.
None.
I received a lot of information from various parties. I also did a site visit, and I also had a discussion with the applicant's attorney.
I also spoke to the applicant's attorney and received multiple emails. Before I go any further, I was negligent in not pointing out who we have here from the city tonight, so you guys don't think that we just run roughshod up here. So we have from the planning and zoning staff is Carlann Devonish and Jim Hetzel, and our city legal advisor, our interim city manager, Dwayne Spence, and then also present are Lorraine Tappan, Yvonne Redding, Michael Ferreira, and Nancy Garcia. So I'm sorry about that, folks. What?
You called me interim city manager.
That's what it says right here. Was something happen last night?
City attorney.
Oh. City attorney, city manager. Sorry about that, Dwayne.
Not a problem. I take all promotions.
I don't blame you. This is my last night. You know that, right? All right.
Chair?
Yes.
So we're not going to be able to have anything on that screen? Does staff know? Up there?
They do now.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Your microphone's not on, Ms. Crush.
I believe your staff is addressing it right now.
Thank you. Were all these monitors put in for this meeting, or is it used in the daily routine of DN, whatever this is called now?
It's primarily for public hearings. But they are used during the day for like permitting as well.
No signal. Courtney, all the visuals you're going to put up are is in the package? Are you putting up anything additional than what's in the package? On the monitors?
I am in terms of aerials.
Okay. I was going to say, the audience can see from those two monitors, and we could refer to our iPads, but if there's something beyond that, then,
And perhaps in the interest of time, I'm happy to, I believe since you all did site visits, you know where the property is in the context, so perhaps I can get started, and if, Mr. Chair, you or a board member has a question, you could stop me and I can share the graphic.
so can everybody on the board see either of these two monitors, just in case you have to crane your neck a little bit and see it? There we go, we got it. Never mind. All right.
Technology is wonderful until it's not. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. Courtney Crush on behalf of the property owner Arthur Bartholomew, who's here with us this evening. We are here for a proposed rezoning in the Northwest Regional Activity Center, proposed to be rezoned from residential mid-rise multifamily medium density to Northwest Regional Activity Center, MU. The property with which many of you are familiar is located on Northwest 3rd Avenue. You should be able to see the graphic. It is south of Sunrise Boulevard, west of the railroad tracks, and east of a significant industrial area in our city. Closer up view, you can see the property that Arthur owns, which is multiple lots, and we are seeking to rezone them to be consistent with the land use designation of Northwest Regional Activity Center. Some street view perspectives of the property. As if you may have visited it more recently, there's a city project which is using the parcel, so it doesn't look as pristine as it does in this graphic right here, and also looking from the other parallel street. As I mentioned, the property is located in the city's Northwest Regional Activity Center. This board may recall the city created the Regional Activity Center as a regional, as a redevelopment area. It spans all the way to slightly west of 95, and then worked for multiple years with the stakeholders in the community to create 3 zoning districts for the property. In 2014, the city amended the zoning code and created, as I mentioned, several zoning districts, some of which are intended to be east and have a higher intensity along Andrews Avenue. Other districts intended to have a lower intensity, either east of 95 and 9th Avenue, excuse me. And there's just a additional perspective of the property where it is located within this area of the Northwest Rack. As I mentioned, the surrounding zoning districts range from industrial B3, which is the city's intense business zoning district, to the east of many of the properties, in part initiated by the city along the Andrews Avenue core and Sunrise Boulevard to a certain extent, amended the zoning to create and have regional activity center zoning for those properties. The RAC MUNE has more intense height. It's 120 feet. The parcels you see to the southeast, that is the pale purple. The parcels you see in the darker purple are the zoning district RAC MUNE, which has a maximum height of 65 feet. The B3 and industrial parcels have a maximum height of 150 feet. And then the parcels to the north, some of them along the Sunrise Boulevard corridor remain while they have an underlying land use of regional activity center. It's only the parcels closest to the tracks that the city-sponsored initiative moved forward with the zoning of the RAC MUNE. The zoning today, as I mentioned, is residential, multifamily, mid-rise, medium density. It has a permitted density of 25 dwelling units per acre and a maximum height of 55 feet. The proposed RAC NUE has a maximum height of 65 feet and does not have a regulation applicable to density. It also allows, as the RMM 25 does, residential uses, mixed uses, and because it's in a redevelopment area, the Regional Activity Center also allows some retail uses. Our client, by the way, intends to do residential, hoping that this can further the Northwest RAC's goal of providing affordable, in terms of a price point, housing as envisioned. As you saw in the prior slide, the other thing that the RAC zoning does is it requires any future site plan, which would go through a typical site plan process, to conform with the Northwest RAC master plan, which includes design criteria, in part prioritizing streetscape, building form, architectural features, scale, et cetera. You know, the streets today have not been revisited from a pedestrian walkability in terms, perspective, canopy, sidewalks, et cetera. Now, as part of this process, we did have the opportunity, and we appreciate it, to meet with the Progresso neighborhood and discussed the RMM 25 zoning. On the screen is a typical RMM 25 multifamily residence. As I said, the maximum height is 55 feet. The maximum density is 25 units an acre, which on all of Arthur's property would allow the opportunity for a total of about 18 units. What we discussed with our neighbors at the association and subsequently with some of our other neighbors is, how could one in the future propose to the city and the neighbors, a RAC Northwest MU project. Conceptually, Arthur envisioned having independent buildings with access divided between Northwest 3rd and Northwest 2nd Avenues, independent buildings. There was a discussion and feedback from our neighbors that one of the things that perhaps was not called for in the RMM 25 zoning district, but would be appropriate for any future site plan would be, stepping back, because architectural form is part of the design guidelines in the RAC and MU allows the city to have input with respect to architectural design. In addition to our presentations to the Progresso neighborhood, and I know that you've received correspondence from their president following a meeting that they held and discussed this. Arthur also took the opportunity to candidly walk the neighborhood and to garner additional feedback from some of the additional neighbors, many of whom are not involved in the neighborhood association. I think you have received correspondence from several or multiple of those neighbors, and outlined in green are some of the properties owned by those neighbors. Now, the criteria for a rezoning, as called out in your staff report, are threefold. First, is the zoning district consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? Well, here this is Northwest RAC MU zoning, proposed to be on a property, parcels of property, which have underlying land use also of Northwest RAC. So therefore, it is consistent with the underlying land use and furthers the goals in the city's comprehensive plan, including encouraging the revitalization and appropriate redevelopment of the consistent with that underlying land use. The second criteria is, would the rezoning adversely impact the character of development in or under the area for consideration? As I stated, the potential development in this immediate area is the RMM 25 mid-rise multifamily. The building envelope permitted under the Northwest RAC zoning, which we're seeking, is not going to impact should someone choose not to rezone to from RMM 25. The height difference is 10 feet. In Arthur's proposed plan in those multiple buildings, he was thinking 16 units per building with the covered parking for a total of about 80 units on the entire parcel. And development of residential with RMM 25 as neighbors, given the proximity also of the more intense industrial and commercial zoning, we actually think would be a benefit and would again bring additional housing at an appropriate scale to this area. The final criteria is the uses, is the character of the area suitable for the uses permitted in the proposed zoning district. As I mentioned, RMM 25 today allows residential, certain other social service uses, hotels as a conditional use, rezoning to a zoning district that permits residential, mixed use, some other retail uses, which Arthur has no interest in pursuing, is certainly compatible with both the RMM 25, much more less intensive than the B3 industrial zone, business zoning on Sunrise Boulevard, and the zoning that has been placed a block and a half over to the east of the higher intensity RAC zoning. Therefore, we believe that this is a wonderful step forward to continue to implement the city's Northwest Regional Activity Center plan to further the goals of the CRA, which was just extended for another 10 years by the City Commission last night, in which this property sits, and would look forward to having this zoning, which meets all the criteria in place so that Mr. Bartholomew could proceed forward to reach out to our neighbors and then reach out to city staff and discuss a site plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And Mr. Chair, if I could also reserve a couple of minutes after there may be public comment in case for follow-up.
Okay. Any questions for applicant's counsel before we open it up to the public?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
Hey. You mentioned how many units he plans on putting there, but how many units could conceivably fit there in total, should he or someone that he may or may not sell the site to decide to build on the site at a later date?
Probably not more than 100. I think parking is the control, and Arthur did have an architect kind of model that out, but it's really you're parking every dwelling unit at 2 parking spaces, as you well know, per residence. Is there a number higher that you would ask Seth to?
It's form-based density, and so it's parking and height, so 65 feet.
Well, we will need the applicant to speak into the microphone, please.
Please give us your name.
Hi, Arthur Bartholomew. It's form-based density, so there's not a cap of density per acre. It's how many you can fit with obviously a minimum unit size, and can you park it, and the height of the building. So it's not a high density area because the parking is really what does it. So it's 100-ish, and we're going.
Would be a max.
Yes.
I think that's what we had modeled out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How many lots are being replaced then? In other words, I'm trying to get an idea of maybe what the density was there on your entire property today would be if they're just single family, whatever they are.
A good portion of the property, and I will scroll back to the area, is vacant. Today, I think you've got a duplex. Duplex, fourplex. And the remainder, as you can see,
Singles, okay.
the rest is
just
vacant. The
land,
rest is
vacant land.
vacant land. You can see it's the property over on the right.
Okay, then I guess what I should ask is, what's the acreage of what you own?
1.67 acres.
So it could theoretically be around 35, 40, with under 20, no, 25. Right, exactly. So we're talking maybe 35, 40. If someone were to build under the existing zoning, they could build without a change 40, 50 units, right?
Correct.
40 units probably, it's 40 something. Okay, and it goes up from there. All right, so it's not nothing there. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So this zoning change that you're asking for, as a board, we never get to see the project that the owner ends up wanting to put on the property, correct? Because of where it is. It will not come back to this board. This is like blind faith. Yes, rezone it because you're talking about doing residential. But as I look at all the permitted uses, it's much more intense. Right smack in the middle of a bunch of residential, single-family, low-rise buildings. Am I correct?
So that is the character of what is there today. This
Correct.
is and has been a multifamily zoning district. The city took that into account when it incorporated it into the regional activity center, partly in effort to encourage and actually provide a mechanism for this area to be redeveloped to an appropriate regional activity center zoning district.
I agree with you, but go ahead.
So to answer your question, unless seeking special dispensation for something, you're right. The entitlement process would be Development Review Committee, which, Ms. Scott, as you know, requires extensive public participation well in advance of either filing a DRC application, which we do anyway, review by city staff, and then is always subject to a call-up by the city commission, which I don't have to tell you, the commission takes its oversight role very stringently.
Can I ask another question?
Of course.
I don't know if this is staff or Courtney. The Northwest RAC master plan, what can you do? What is in that master plan as it reflects to this property in this area? I mean, can they put in communication tower structures? Can they put in hospital, medical, public health? Can they put in social service residential? Because those are all the permitted uses on the zoning that they're going for. So I'd like an answer to that.
So the master plan is the design guideline or the design standards. So depending on what proposed use is going to be developed, it will be developed based on the design standards in the master plan.
But
So
they're
it's-
allowed to do that. If they meet the criteria, they can be right smack in the middle of that area.
That is correct.
I just want to make
As
sure
long
I'm
as they're meeting
not
the
incorrect.
criteria and meeting all the standards. I believe some of those uses that you did just mention, though, are conditional approval. So that would require, of course, going to planning and zoning board for those higher intensive uses.
Let me see if I have any other questions for you, Courtney.
Okay.
I see you went to the Civic Association back in 2024, and they were opposed to this project for the reasons of, you know, I think their expectation was with the zoning and with this particular zoning, they expected these uses and this intensity to be on the outside of the neighborhood. This technically looks like a spot zoning. I know, I mean, it looks like, I know it's not a spot zoning because of the underlying zoning, but it sure is right smack in the middle of a neighborhood. So,
Which I think was the ultimate intention of creating the Northwest Regional Activity Center. I can't speak to, I understand that when the city was moving forward with the initial city-sponsored rezonings, it was incredibly time-intensive. And at a point in time where Andrews Avenue, the east half of those blocks, there was consensus and political will to move that forward. There were still the need to go back and revisit. What you have seen since then is independent property owners move forward to rezone properties, which again was the intention of creating the Northwest Regional Activity Center to begin with. So furthering that, I think the appropriate discussion is the criteria. Is it consistent with this plan? Does it have adverse impacts? And I don't believe that the permitted uses, certainly the intention of residential, when you are surrounded by not only medium intensity residential, but also much more intense zoning districts, this seems to be lacking any adverse impacts and compatible with the vision. It would need to be compatible with the design guidelines and will move forward, I'm going to say redevelopment of this neighborhood in a very compatible fashion, providing sufficient people, but residential will be next to residential. If the city decides to continue to move forward with the rezonings, this zoning district is the appropriate zoning district that I think the city would elect to consider placing here. You would not do something more intense like what exists along Andrews Avenue for that very reason.
well, okay. I don't know if I agree with everything, but thank you.
Okay. You agree with some of it?
Maybe.
Courtney, how is it not spot zoning? You had the future land use map up. That's the future land use. Spot zoning really pertains to zoning, and it'd be a different zoning than everything surrounding it. So how is it not spot zoning?
So the zoning criteria are consistency with the land use plan, that and a finding that there are not adverse impacts by the zoning district, and compatibility with both the building form and primary uses of the proposed zoning district are perfectly compatible with its immediate and a little further off neighbors. Those are the criteria for the rezoning.
Okay. So you're saying it's not spot zoning, because when we saw the some number of years ago, some of us will remember when somebody was requesting the same land use change in the smack dab of the middle of the industrial area, and city staff or someone took a position that it was spot zoning because it was in the middle of all the rest of the
And
zoning.
I can't fathom the reason for that analysis, so I will.
Okay.
I can't speak to that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
I know it's a long meeting, but I want to ask staff, why are we doing things this way? why are we allowing people to come in? And, I mean, why don't we just change the zoning and tell everybody what it's going to be versus people coming in and doing these kinds of things? I don't think this is a good planning. I really don't. I think it's unfair, quite frankly.
And I would say staff would agree
Don't take
with
it
you.
personal, but, you know.
Oh, no, staff agrees with you there. The effort to rezone this area did try to rezone everything that has the land use of Northwest RAC, Regional Activity Center. The problem was not getting enough consensus to be able to do the full area. And so staff was able to get consensus for the corridor, so along Sistrunk and as we said, but we weren't able to get the consensus for those inner blocks. And so as you can see over time though, property owners are coming in and you'll see that slow creep of the property owners rezoning to a Northwest RAC zoning district, but the original intent was to be able to come in and rezone the entire area. It just unfortunately didn't work out that way, and we moved on with the consensus for the corridor that we received.
How long ago did you try to get that consensus? I mean, this wasn't last year, this is years ago.
This was adopted, the zoning districts were adopted in 2014, but the effort itself took, I think, a little bit more than 10 years. So, the effort started way into the early 2000s, and we ended up with just the corridors.
So Jackie, to your point, maybe in the future, the rest of the people sitting up here, maybe we should be bringing that up in the next couple months and saying maybe we should be making a communication to the commission suggesting that we revisit that. It's been 11 years.
I think we have done that, but we suggested west of here, like in the industrial area. This is obviously a residential neighborhood, right? And so, and like when we look, like the third criteria, the character is suitable for the uses permitted and it's compatible with the surrounding districts and uses, right? Well, the surrounding use is residential, right? And then you have to look at that the permitted, what's permitted is compatible with what's surrounding, right? What they've proposed is obviously compatible, but what's permitted is far beyond that. And we just have to consider whether or not we want to preserve this as a exclusively residential area or open it up to being more than that, not just with this project, but with future projects to come.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think the addition of retail uses is discussed in the master plan and the CRA appropriately. Again, I don't see someone on an interior block finding viable retail here, but I think there has been consensus in the CRA plan as well as in the land use plan that neighborhoods serving retail was a goal in addition to providing more housing.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, at this time, we will open it up to the public for comment. We have a large crowd. We're going to restrict the comments to 3 minutes for individuals, 5 minutes for presidents of HOAs. And we're going to start with Kelly Russell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Russell. I am actually one of the owners in that neighborhood. I purchased that property as a home for me when I'm in Fort Lauderdale visiting my mom. I have two small kids. I stay in that property with my two small kids, and I don't feel 100% safe or comfortable in the neighborhood, especially at nighttime while trying to stroll my children. I also use it as an Airbnb when I'm not here staying in Fort Lauderdale, and I have had numerous cancellations after one day and night staying in the property. I think that it shows really nicely in the pictures. It's close by so much in everything that we all love in Fort Lauderdale, but there's something about it that people don't want to stay for their week-long time that they've booked. And so that's sad, right? And so I think with this project, I love the idea of just a fresh new energy in this space for our community and for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask her a question? Where do you live exactly? I'm allowed to ask that, right?
Who's speaking?
Yes.
I don't live there. It's a property
Right.
that I stay in with my children. My mom lives in Fort Lauderdale off of Commercial Boulevard, so I bought this as a
Thank you.
investment. I'm going to Airbnb it, and when I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale, I will stay there. But I haven't in a while personally because I don't feel comfortable.
Okay.
My
Thanks, Sharon.
address is on the list. I prefer
Yeah.
not to announce it to the group if that's
Next up, Edgar Sans. Hope I said that correctly. I'm good at butchering names.
All right, so my name's Edgar Sains. I'm a property
Need to
manager.
turn the speaker, the microphone on. Little flat tab on the bottom.
No, it's on.
No.
It was on.
No,
Is
it
it
was on.
Is it?
If-
Okay, I can't see the red
Press
light,
it
my
again.
bad.
You have to press it again. There you go.
It's on.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so my name's Edgar Sains. I'm a property manager in the area. I think that rezoning this property is not only going to increase value for the owners surrounding it, but I also believe that it will bring in long-term tenants as we have an 80% turnover as people don't want to renew their leases because they do not feel safe in the area. In addition, based on the available space that's in the area, the people who come in to dump trash, the homeless people that come to party on the vacant lots, just create an unsafe environment overall for the homeowners, for the tenants, and that's why I'm all for rezoning this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Alexander Florence.
Good evening, board members and audience. My name is Alexander Florence. I live in Progressive Village. I actually stay in the village, and me and my wife have lived there for 5 years. I'm a Broward County school teacher. I love where I live. Actually, in some of the pictures being shown, my house was right there. It's just one story. Like I said, just me and my wife. I don't know. I love our community. I would prefer just houses there. I know that's, not feasible. I know everybody would like to make more money, and I understand that if the project passes, we will make more money, but it just seems odd to me to throw such a large building in the middle of a neighborhood. Most of the buildings around there, I think at the moment, a 3-story building is the highest we've got. I don't see how we could add larger buildings. And we all know that as soon as this passes, more developers will come, we'll change the whole zoning, and there'll be no more single-family houses there. I love where I live, Progressive Village. I just hope it stays the way it is. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask you a question? So you're okay if we keep the zoning for 55 feet? Because that's what it currently is. So
And I understand
you'll
that,
welcome
and I'm fine with
55,
that.
but your problem with the 65 versus the 55?
I know it doesn't seem like much, but we all know that this changes, everything changes, and I know they don't plan on putting businesses at the bottom floor, but that's a possibility, maybe not in theirs, but in future. Why would we want businesses in the middle of our neighborhood? We have the rack around us. There's already businesses there. Well, there's storefronts that are dead empty. We got neighborhoods, our main street, Sistrunk, Andrews, there's businesses, just empty buildings there. What? I don't understand. That's just my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, J.J. Hankerson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is J.J. Hankerson, and I'm the president of the association. And I would like to say to you all that the association have done what we supposed to do. We voted it down because it's in smack in the middle of our community, and we didn't have that desire for that. And the question that you asked the former guy, that on RR 25, it is what it is. We can't control that, but we have some say-so about this, and we would like for it to, the rezoning not to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jason Ross.
Thank you. Again, my name is Jason Ross. I came here today to speak in approval of the rezoning. As Mr. Donaldson pointed out before, the change is relatively de minimis, and it's going to go ahead and have a overall positive impact to the neighborhood that currently is being affected by homelessness, and it will inject a new lifeblood, I believe, into the community. It's going to be serving residential housing. There's a need for residential housing, especially affordable housing. And I believe that this product is going to have an overall improvement to the neighborhood. I don't believe that we should be concerned with a grand sweeping change to the landscape. This is going to have an impact, and I believe that we should take a positive step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last card I've got. So unless there's somebody else who wants to be heard on this item, we're going to go ahead and close the public portion of this and bring it back to the board and give Ms. Crush her minutes of, do you want to respond?
Very briefly, Mr. Chair, thank you. With respect to, again, the provision, the ability to provide affordable housing, I think the reason that this area was included in the vision as outlined in the Northwest RAC is the city didn't want industrial, they would like mixed use. And the city noted that while certainly it's wonderful that there are single family homes there that people enjoy, the RMM 25 zoning has not been viable in terms of being successfully occupied. Those parcels have sat there, and that imbalance, if you will, with not being able to appropriately utilize the RMM 25. There have been approved site plans. There was actually an approved site plan on a portion of Arthur's, and no one could actually make it work. And I think it's telling that over the decades, the city decided that the inappropriate solution is, again, to provide the opportunity for more residents, not an extreme number, given the form controls that are in the zoning districts, but to allow there to be an appropriate number of people housed in homes that city staff will beat out to be very respectful to its neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask her a question as a follow-up?
Yep.
You just brought up, again, affordable housing, and I made some notes earlier. None of this is obviously tied to this rezoning, but can you give us an indication as to how you defined affordable housing? What will the parameters be that are actually making sure that these are affordable housing going forward? Are you going to tie that into some of the city's affordable housing program? Are you going to get county approval, et cetera, or is this just a soundbite?
Well, I actually think it's market reality. The definition of affordable is incredibly broad, and when you look at the fact that Broward County publishes that an affordable unit for somebody making $89,000 a year, they can rent a studio for $2,200. Arthur has looked at the neighborhood and knows these are not going to be Flagler Village rents, so we're falling within those parameters because that's what the market is going to bear.
Are you planning on going for some of the tax incentives that are being out there for affordable housing or not? Okay.
We're going to need you to speak into the microphone if you're going to.
Potentially, we would speak to the CRA about getting money for infrastructure in exchange for allocating certain units for affordability. And, frankly too, it's naturally occurring affordable housing because it's a function of what you pay per buildable unit. So if you're on Los Olas, you're going to spend $100,000 for the dirt. Here, if we can do it and build more, it's a much smaller amount. And when you're under 65 feet or under, it's much, much cheaper to build when you're not high rise. So because it's a cheaper input for the land and to build, you can offer cheaper units.
Sort of following up on last night's extension of the CRA. So I wanted to hear of whether or not you were going to be, utilizing some of that, because to rezone and then not be part of the bigger picture of what the city is doing for CRA, et cetera, was a concern. Thank you.
We'll absolutely try it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Somebody want to?
I have some more discussion.
Okay.
I can ask staff. They already have zoning of RMM 25. Do they not have the ability to develop in that zoning? Because it seems to me they do. They just want to go higher, but nothing is precluding them from developing that property the way it's zoned today and staying in line with the rest of the neighborhood. Am I right or wrong?
You are correct.
Thank you.
RMM 25 does allow residential.
Correct. And it is residential. It doesn't have all the other uses. Okay, thank you.
But the fact that it's been RMM 25 for so long and nothing has developed tells us that the financials don't work out. The incentives haven't worked. That's what the issue is. You don't see anything developed in that neighborhood changed as people sell homes. You don't see someone buy it and do that, and you see a lot of vacant lots still too. So
I understand that, Steve,
yeah, okay.
but you have to know how long they've owned the property, what they paid for it, and what the numbers are. I understand you make more money with a higher zoning, but I don't believe that you can't redevelop the property with RMM 25 and stay in line with the rest of the neighborhood. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
my microphone isn't working, so I'll borrow yours, Steve.
Absolutely.
You can have this whole, move this whole
great.
thing down, Steve.
Thanks. Affordable housing, and that was one of the notes I took in looking at this and listening to Ms. Crush. It made it perfectly clear to me, we cannot have it both ways. We can't have neighborhoods that languish and still talk about why we have no affordable housing in Fort Lauderdale. If you want to live east and have affordable housing, this has to happen. And it'll take time, but it has to take a first step. This is essential. I think it's really important that we realize that we must act for affordable housing. We just can't keep talking about it. And I think this moves in that direction. So I will make a motion. I'm going to find the appropriate.
Oh, wait, before you make a motion,
Yeah.
let's make sure there's no more discussion on the board.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
discussion.
Go ahead, Jay.
I'm just curious, like, what other board members think about, like, preservation of the cluster of uses, i.e., like, the neighborhood. Like, this project sounds great. Planning and Zoning Board also has an ability to recommend lesser intensity zonings. I don't know if there are any others that are formally residential in nature that would maybe allow for more viability of development, but prevent a mix of alternative uses in the middle of what's currently a residential community. And the reason I ask is I'm just struggling to see how the uses that are permitted in the zoning are compatible with the surrounding uses, which is the third criteria, and could be interpreted differently if you look at surrounding districts and whatnot. But that's where I'm struggling. And I mean, if there were something lesser, I could support that. But in the interest of preserving the integrity of the residential nature of the neighborhood, I otherwise wouldn't be able to support this.
Anyone else?
I just want to share my opinion on the whole matter. I have an office in the South District, and nothing was ever done there. And it's been that way for a long time, and it's pretty bad, right? So it slowly grew, and that's the way these zoning districts grow. So they created this regional activity center. The county created it. The state approves it. The city goes along with it. We create this huge regional activity center. They start in the middle with the downtown core, and everything has kind of grown from there. We've seen it before our own eyes. And when you look at what the city of Fort Lauderdale has grown into, it's a more walkable community. Now, it may have some negative impacts. It has, you know, more sewer systems required, more traffic, all these things. But looking at what it is now, years ago, nobody walked in the streets on Las Olas. Las Olas was dead. It was dead. It was scary at night. I'm saying this about Las Olas. Las Olas is a beautiful place to hang out now, and that has grown from there throughout the city, and you see that heading north. And this is what the planners were looking to do ultimately. And that's just the way it grows. We had the same pushback in the South Rack. There were folks in our community who didn't want to rezone. We're going through that whole process now. There's a lot of hemming and hawing, but if you look at what's been done, the proof is in the pudding. It is a positive impact in our community. And there are people moving downtown, and it's a livable place, whereas before it never was. And there are plenty of affordable options. I personally worked on a bunch of projects in the Northwest Rack, and there's a lot of good housing there, and really good quality projects have been built there. And I think it's totally compatible. It meets all three of the criteria without question. The word spot zoning is nowhere in this criteria, and I just feel like it needs to be approved. If not, we're creating a liability for the city. So that's my 2 cents.
I'll add my 2 cents as well. From a investor developer standpoint, I think when you look at something like this and you have concerns that there's some commercial use, retail or what have you go in there, the numbers just wouldn't work compared to what I believe this applicant is looking to do there. So while that may be in the rack zoning, on a site this small, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. So I understand that that's a concern, but I can't ever see that happening.
Well, is there another zoning than RMM 25 that is of higher intensity that does not allow for commercial uses?
For to clarify, any of the other Northwest Rack zoning districts?
I don't know, is there an RMM 50, like 35,
No,
60?
The next one would be RMH 60.
Okay, and is there a reason that, like, is that compatible with this future land use?
120 feet high. That one is 150 feet high. When you get RMH 60,
The land use typically
Yes.
for the RMH 60 is a high residential.
yes.
So I would have to double check, but I don't believe it would be compatible.
I have
Okay.
another question, Mike.
Go ahead.
Going on what Jay said. Is there any way that we can tie this new zoning to only residential? For this project?
Dwayne Spence, interim city attorney now.
That's what I thought.
That would have to be a
So-
deed restriction, right?
It would have to be a deed restriction, which you wouldn't be able to impose as part of your requirements and conditions of approval. I suppose a proffer could be accepted.
So if this goes through tonight, you can expect every property owner to come in here and rezone their property right away. Are they going to have to come through us to do it?
Yes.
Yes. So your function and role as a planning and zoning board tonight is to either make a recommendation to the city commission with regards to whether or not to approve the rezoning or to outright deny. If you deny it, the applicant is barred for 2 years from applying for a similar rezoning. Correct. They would have the existing zoning. And in terms of the question with regards to the RMM 60 zoning, because the underlying land use here is a rack, you have a pool of units versus a density calculation per acreage. So staff would have to do a calculation based on the number of the density, the number of units in the pool within the rack to determine whether or not there's sufficient density to permit that rezoning. So I don't think they're prepared to opine on whether or not it would be permitted at this juncture.
And what is the height
And
limit?
I was just gonna say, and if I may add, for RM860, the maximum height is 120, 150. And you can have conditional use to go up to 240 feet in height.
Maybe they prefer that.
All right, here's your shock theory. All right, Sherry, take it away.
I move to recommend approval of case number UDP-Z24004 based on the finding of facts and the facts in the city staff report and the testimony today, finding that it meets the criteria. And the board's and the approval is subject to the conditions included in the staff report.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we call the roll? Jamie, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Donaldson? Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
No.
Mr. Scheckman?
No.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
Passed 6-2.
Thank you. All right. Next case number, UDP Z24006. Again, we'll start with disclosures. Jay, if you'll kick it off.
None?
Actually, do we need new disclosures on this, on a plat? Okay. Jackie?
This is a rezoning, so disclosures as well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a site visit. I'm sure we all did come in here tonight. That's it.
Site visit.
None.
Site visit and spoke to applicant's counsel.
None.
Did a site visit.
No disclosures for me. Okay. Vince Prince. How great a name is that? Vince Prince.
Correction, I did not speak to applicant's counsel. I was on the wrong case there. This is Steve.
Yeah, I have to discuss that with my parents, but
It's all right.
yep, very good. So, well, good to meet you guys. Good evening, board and the other guests. I'm here representing New Hope Development Corporation, and we're seeking to rezone the single lot 1325 Northwest 6th Street, which is 6th Truck Boulevard. The lot currently has split zoning. It's part of the lot is RM15, the other part is Northwest Rack MU.
Do you have any kind of visuals that you're putting up?
I believe staff has provided a couple of pages for us.
Okay. What's that? Up over your shoulder, what? What
It's
file
case
is it?
UDP Z24006.
And who's controlling the clicker? It's just one picture? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so as I was saying, it has split zoning, which makes it non-conforming. Half the lot is RM15, the other half is Northwest Rack mixed use. We're seeking a unified zoning change to Northwest Rack mixed use, which is consistent with the future land use map. It's also consistent with staff's recommendations. And I'm here to address any questions you may have regarding this project. And I also want to say we have an application in DRC, which is tied to this rezoning. And that application is to develop a lot. We're putting 9 workforce housing units on top of a structured parking facility, which would be used to service the needs of New Hope Baptist Church and the needs of the Lee Mizell YMCA.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant? Hearing, seeing none, we'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody who wish to be heard on this item? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close the public portion of this, bring it back to the board for discussion or a motion. Come on, guys, it's going to be a long night.
I just have one comment for city staff. The zoning that is shown up there, it doesn't go to the center line of the street, and I don't believe that the legal description provided goes to the center line of the street. Is that something that has to be corrected, or is that par for the course? Is that the way they typically do it?
In keeping with the ULDR, it will be considered to the center line. I understand that it's not depicted as such.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Is there a motion?
I'll try to make a motion, Mike.
Ms. Scott, make a motion?
A motion to recommend approval. I move to recommend approval of case number UDP, I think that's a Z.
Yep.
Z24006, based on the following findings of fact. Fact, the city staff report based on testimony here by the applicant. The board hereby finds that the application meets the applicable criteria of the ULDR cited in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion before we call the roll? Jamie, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
Passed 8-0.
Okay, next case, UDP P23002. Good evening. Oh.
If you would make disclosures, please.
Yes. Sorry. Jay, if you'll start with disclosures again, please.
No disclosures.
Hold on a second.
Item number 3.
Yeah, item number 3, I spoke to the applicant's attorney.
I have none.
Spoke to applicant's attorney.
Site visit and spoke to applicant's attorney.
I spoke to the applicant's attorney.
Site visit and voicemail with applicant's attorney.
And I spoke to the applicant's attorney.
Good evening, Nectaria Chakas with the firm Lockery and Chakas. On behalf of the applicant, we're requesting this evening approval of a plat for the property that is commonly known as the FDOT Park and Ride Lot up in on Cypress Creek. The property, there we go. Oops. Back. There we go. So the property is actually, the park and ride lot is actually split between 2 municipalities. We have part of it in Oakland Park, and then the part that you see in the aerial up there is in red. That's the part that's in the city of Fort Lauderdale. This is part of the Uptown Land Use Plan Amendment area that was approved by this board and by the City Commission. All of the land use has been changed to transit-oriented development district. We also have rezoned the property. This actually was approved by the City Commission back in April of this year, so just very recently. This plat is to approve or allow a mixed-use building to be located on the property. This is not advancing. There we go. So more of a close-up of the property here. And then we have the plat. There we go. The plat, which allows up to 345 mid-rise units and 6,000 square feet of commercial use. It's consistent now. The uses are consistent with the zoning that's now in place and with the land use. So we're requesting approval of the plat at this time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant's attorney? Seeing none, we'll open up to the public. Anybody wish to be heard on this? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close the public participation, bring it back for discussion or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval. I move to recommend approval of case number UDP-P23002, based upon the following findings of fact and the facts in the city and staff report, and based upon the testimony heard by the applicant, that the board hereby finds that the application meets the applicable criteria, the ULDR cited in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Patrick. Any further discussion before we vote? Jamie?
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
Passed 8-0.
Thank you, Nectaria. All right, next case, UDP S24028 has requested a deferral to the June 18th, 2025 P&Z meeting. Somebody want to make a motion whether to defer that or not?
Motion to defer?
Second.
Motion and a second. Can we do a voice vote or do we need to call? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case, UDP P24005. Jay? Disclosures, sorry.
Sorry, I'm pulling up which one this is.
Calvary Chapel.
No disclosures.
I spoke to the applicant's attorney.
No disclosures. Let me see.
I'm going to recuse myself on this item. Calvary Chapel is a client, and I actually did do work on that property some time ago, so I won't be voting on this one.
Okay, Steve?
Site visit and spoke to applicant's counsel.
I spoke with the applicant's counsel.
Site visit and spoke to applicant's counsel.
No disclosures. Is this you again?
This is me again. Good evening, Nectaria Chakas again, Lockerian Chakas, on behalf of Calvary Chapel. This is a request for another plat approval. This is property that was purchased back in 2011 by Calvary Chapel. It's the old Fort Lauderdale Christian School. The buildings that are on this site right now are slated to be demolished, and they're going to construct a new school on this property for their elementary school kids. So they'll be relocating from the existing campus, the East Campus, and using this property as a new school for the elementary age children. The site is 9.9 acres, and this is not forwarding for some reason. There we go. This is a close-up of the site. You can see the existing buildings that are on the site there today, and then you have the athletic fields. That little white line that you see dividing the athletic fields from the existing buildings is really the zoning boundary as well, because this property has split land use and zoning. So the west part where the buildings are is zoned community facilities, house of worship, school, and then you have the east portion, which is the athletic fields that are zoned park and open space. So we've had to contend with that split land use and zoning. The plat that is before you this evening has two parcels, even though it's all operating as one cohesive site, and the campus will operate as one cohesive site. Because there's split land use and zoning, we've had to create two separate lots or parcels as part of the plat. And this is how that kind of lays out on the next slide. Can you advance? Is it possible for you to advance to the next one? So the property, I'll just go ahead and use this particular slide. It's not working. It's not advancing to the next slide. So as I said, there's two separate parcels. We are requesting a waiver from the code provision that requires that all parcels within the plat have direct access to a public right-of-way. And the reason for that is because this is one campus, so here we go. This is how the zoning lays out. So under the code provision, we would have to essentially build a public street from Northwest 31st Avenue to the back parcel, which is the park parcel. And in this case, we don't think that's necessary because this is all going to operate as one cohesive site. And so we are requesting a waiver from that particular code provision. Again, this is all triggered. The plating requirement for this parcel is all being triggered because the property has never been platted. So even though there are existing buildings on the site today, those were constructed at a time when plating was not required. Because we're going to be reconstructing or demolishing those buildings and constructing a new project, we're required to plat the property. The the plat note restriction will allow for the K through 8 elementary to middle school, even though this is really just geared more toward, or will be geared more toward, elementary school children. And then we also have the plat restriction on the park parcel, which will be limited to recreational uses. The site plan eventually will be coming in front of you. There is no requirement that we present the site plan at this time during this stage, but it will be coming in front of you at a later date. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant's counsel? Seeing none, we're going to open this up to the public portion of the meeting on this item. Anybody wish to be heard on this? Seeing, hearing none, we'll bring it back for discussion and/or a motion.
I'll make a motion if there's no discussion, Chair.
Okay.
Motion to recommend approval. I move to recommend approval of case number UDP P2 4005 based on the following findings of fact, the facts of the city staff report, and/or based on testimony heard by the applicable criteria of the ULDR cited in the staff report.
And are you granting the waiver from the requirement for the private street?
Yes, I'm granting that. Yes, that's part of it. Thank you, Dwayne.
No problem.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Take it away, Jamie.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, next case, UDP S24067. Jay, why don't you kick us off on disclosures?
Yeah, sure. No disclosures.
Jackie?
None.
None.
Steve?
Site visit.
Mr. Chair, I need to abstain on this matter. My firm has a conflict to represent an entity that is in a matter adversarial to this applicant.
Okay. And
Site visit.
disclosure?
None.
No disclosures from me either. Okay. Sherry, you're going to have to leave the, can hardly call this a dais, but when you have to recuse yourself, you have to step off the dais. A person of such influence as yours? Absolutely. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Dwayne Dickerson on behalf of the applicant, attorney with the law firm Misco Backman, offices at 14 Southeast 4th Street in Boca Raton. And this evening I'm before you representing the Cypress Creek Station and the new Target Shopping Center. We're requesting site plan approval as well as a parking reduction. So this is the subject site. It's on the northwest corner of Cypress Creek Road and Andrews Avenue. The zoning district is B3, and the future land use is Uptown Urban Village, TOD. The property in total, the shopping center, is just over 22.7 acres in size. The specific request is for site plan approval to redevelop the shopping center by demolishing the existing movie theater, which is the Regal Cinema, and a Sola Salons, which is another tenant that's no longer in the shopping center, and the former Office Depot buildings to make way for the Target store that's just north of 121,000 square feet. We're also asking for a parking reduction. At the time, we were asking for a 15% reduction, but in continued cooperation with your staff, we are reducing that request to an 11.5% reduction now, and I'll explain that in a moment. As you know, this would traditionally be a site plan level 2 for just a site plan, but because we have the parking reduction, it now is a site plan level 3, which is why I'm before you tonight. So this is our site plan. You can see the location that's going to be demolished and redeveloped with the target in the white. The shopping center currently has 3 existing access points on Andrews Avenue, and then there's 1 existing access point on Cypress Creek Road. Cypress Creek Road has a right in, right out, and then if you look on this, north is to your right, right by that future pad, there is a right in, right out access point there. And then right in the middle is essentially the main access point for the shopping center. There's a full access point there, right in, right out, left in, and left out. And then on the left side, on the south side of the shopping center on Andrews, there is a right in, right out as well. So all of those access points will remain. There's a very good and efficient distribution of traffic and by the existing access points. And so we're going to leave those as currently existing. While we were first, obviously, just looking to do the demolition and repurpose the site with the target in cooperation with your staff, we felt this was a really good opportunity to look at other scenarios within the shopping center and provide site improvements that would make for a better experience and upgrade the shopping center and make it for a safer experience. In doing that, we worked with staff to enhance the safety and efficiency of the pedestrian and vehicular experience throughout the shopping center. And some of the things that we were done is, one, we've added 2 new pedestrian access connections to the public right-of-way on Andrews Avenue. We've done ADA upgrades that are proposed, including curb ramps, crosswalks, ADA parking stalls. We are doing parking lot improvements with the new vehicular and pedestrian circulation to parking areas. As you know, in most older shopping centers, the way the circulation pattern works is you have to circulate in front of the shopping center or the major retail corridor as part of the main drive. What we are proposing is to allow an access opening into the parking area. So you no longer have to circulate in front of the center, which reduces conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians. So I think that's a very significant upgrade. In addition to that, we're upgrading traffic control signals for safety and signage for pedestrians, additional crosswalks for pedestrians for safety and visibility. Of course, as you know, Target has the drive-up pickup parking where you can place your order and quickly park, and they bring your order out to you and leave in a quick fashion. And as you know, this property is Zone B3, but we are located within the Uptown Urban Village area. And we know your staff and the city is very sensitive to making sure that that vision is realized. So this gave us an opportunity to implement some of those requirements and look at the Urban Uptown Village requirements and where we could add those to our architecture components of the site, as well as we've done some hardscape improvements. We've added new paver entry areas. We've added enhanced landscaping. We've added plaza area, which I'm sure you've heard is very consistent with your Uptown Urban Village guidelines. So specifically, you can see the 2 new pedestrian access areas. The one is in orange, coming from Andrews now, going directly into the site. And then once you get into the site, there's a new plaza area that we're creating to provide that feel to allow our customers to have an area to eat and congregate consistent with the vision of the Uptown Urban Village. And then the other pedestrian access is on the right side, right in front of the future pad. That's a new additional pedestrian access that we've added. As you can see, kind of in the middle, that's where the drive parking spaces will be for the Target delivery and pickup. And then right in front of the store, significant traffic controls have been added and signage, crosswalks and so forth, and with the opportunity to allow vehicles to get into the parking area without having to go through that front, once again, significantly reducing conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles. A nice little bonus to the project was when we eliminated the movie theater and added the additional retail, we did have a reduction of total daily trips of over 2,300. And so the existing use now, the trip total is about 9,269. And the proposed, like I said, is reduced by about 2,300 to 6,958. So that was a nice little bonus with this development project. So with respect to the parking, our initial request, like I stated, was 15%. with our math, we were showing that the number of spaces required is 1,588. And working with staff, they had a number that's a teeny bit higher, 1,592. So for the record, I'd like to stipulate to the staff's number. And, there's usually a little bit of discrepancy between customer service area, what square footage is counted, what is not. So because the city's number is greater, we're going to stipulate to the city's number at the 1,592. And instead of the 15%, we are asking for an 11.5% reduction, which would total the number of spaces required at 1,409. And so to kind of give you some background of why that number is more than sufficient, with our parking analysis, we did discover that the projected weekday peak parking demand is going to be 1,237 parking spaces. And the weekend peak parking demand is 1,080 spaces. So clearly the 1,409 that we're proposing is more than sufficient. And just to, and so that's, well over 100 surplus parking spaces, even in the worst demand, which is that weekday peak of 1,237. Another thing, and as part of your ULDR regulations, you look at whether or not there are conditions in the center that allow for shared parking because of the use mix that says that, there's a scenario where we don't need as many parking spaces as the ULDR would require. So this shopping center has a really good and unique mix of uses, including commercial, retail. We have health club or a gym. We have restaurants, of course, and we have office, both medical and general office. So to give you an example of the non-concurrent components, as you imagine, most people, when I used to go to the gym, I would go before work, right? So people aren't going to work and gym at the same time. They usually go to the gym and then go to work, or in the evening, they'll go to the gym after work. So you can clearly see that non-concurrent relationship there. With respect to retail, retail usually peaks between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and restaurants usually peak in the evening after 5 p.m. So once again, another example of the non-concurrent nature of our uses, which we think fully supports our request for the 11.5% reduction. And these are just some renderings. Like I say, we worked closely with your staff on these renderings. The staff has stated that we've satisfied DRC comments, and hence why we're here this evening. This is just elevation. It's the east elevation of the building. If you're on Andrews Avenue, looking west into the site. Same rendering, just a little bit further to the north if you were looking west into the site. And you can kind of see there where the drive-up pickup spaces are for the target. So with that, I'll just say a few more comments. One, of course, we did do all of our community outreach. I was sitting there by myself, which in this world, no news is good news in the development world. So we were glad to see that we didn't have any opposition or any concerns that were raised, at least with our community outreach and our notices that we did. Staff report clearly states that we are compatible with your comprehensive plan, and we've satisfied all of the regulations of your ULDR. And I'm sorry, I meant to add to the presentation the most important part, which is today is my birthday. Okay, so I've had an awesome day so far. So please don't ruin it for me. Just approve this.
Now I've heard it all.
Approve this. And then I can get back to the party for the rest of my birthday. So with that shameless plug, thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And by the way, my team is here, so I have representatives for the property owner, our traffic engineers here, and our civil engineers here as well. So thank you so much.
I thought they were all here to speak in opposition to it.
No way. Not on my birthday.
Any questions for the counsel of the applicant?
Mr. Spence, you had a birthday last year too, right?
Come
on, man.
I had a birthday in January.
Oh, you?
I'm Mr. Spence.
Oh, sorry. Crazy. Dwayne.
Dwayne and Dwayne. Trust me.
We've got
which one?
We've got all you can be.
Dwayne.
Don't worry about it.
That's
It
been
happens
going
all
on
the
for
time.
about 20 years now, right?
Yeah, about 20 years now.
It's
Sorry.
the glasses.
Any questions for the applicant? Counsel? Seeing and hearing none, let's open this up to the public for any public input, comment. Anybody? Hearing, seeing none, bring it back for a motion.
Make a motion to approve. I approve the adoption of the resolution approving a site plan level 3 for case number UDP S24067 based upon the following findings of facts. And the board hereby finds that the applicant meets the standards and requirements of the ULDR and the criteria for the proposed use and the site resolution and the conditions that are subject to all conditions in the city staff report, and including the parking reduction of 11%.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, if I may, as a point of order, it's 11.5%.
Okay. Let the record show that.
Second.
Thank you,
With the
sir.
correction.
Second by Patrick. Any further discussion? Jamie?
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson? Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes. Happy
Pass
birthday.
7-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank
See you next year.
Where's the party? I'm sorry. All right, moving right along. Case number UDP S24071. Jay?
I spoke with the applicant's attorney.
I also spoke with the applicant's attorney.
Yes. I spoke with the applicant's attorney.
I played phone tag with the applicant's attorney.
Site visit, and Andrew called me.
I spoke with the applicant's attorney.
Site visit and spoke to the applicant's attorney.
And I also spoke to the applicant's counsel. Okay, Mr. Shine.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Andrew Shine with Lockery and Chakas, representing the property owner. Two things going, one thing going for me, one thing not. This is a significant smaller project than the last parking reduction. It is not my birthday, though. The treatment would be the same treatment would be nice, though. The property is located at 3501 Northwest 54th Street. This is in the northwest of Fort Lauderdale, and it's bounded by all different cities. We have North Lauderdale on the west, Tamarack and Oakland Park on the south, and also a little bit of Tamarack on the east. And Pompano is a little bit further to the north. So this is in the very northwest side of Fort Lauderdale. It's in an industrial area, and it's currently used as a warehouse, and the person who runs the warehouse, they're a couple cubicles. They have an apparel business. They produce shirts and hats. They don't produce it here, but this is their warehouse where they store it and then ship it out. The name of the company is called Robin Ruth. They're expanding, and they also need to expand the warehouse. So this is just a warehouse use. There's no retail for it. It's just expanding the warehouse. This is the site plan for the property. We are beautifying the property with landscaping in the back and the west. The existing warehouse is on the east, plan right, and the proposed warehouse is on the north. The existing building is non-conforming. It doesn't meet setbacks. We're not proposing to change any of that. The new building will meet all requirements of the ULDR. So the new part will be conforming. This is not as pretty as the Target, but it's just a fairly basic warehouse. Loading bay. I'll piggyback off Dwayne Dickerson a little bit. He went through a couple of the criteria or possible criteria for parking reduction. One of them that he mentioned is shared parking, where different uses that operate at different times. There is another option where different uses are complementary to each other, like let's say a dog grooming place and a dog kennel. They can share parking because they're similar uses and have a lot of walk-in traffic. Another option is off-site parking, particularly public parking. So if there's parking within 700 feet of it, you can use that in your parking analysis for a parking reduction. We're not using those options, and it's or, so the code does give options. We are using the option that you can read here, and it's that basically that the use or structure itself or location renders that it requires less parking than the code does. And when we do, this is clearly a subjective determination. And when we do parking reductions under this analysis, we need to have a methodology meeting with the city's transportation reviewer to figure out what the city would accept in terms of a parking reduction analysis. Sometimes this requires people actually going out and doing parking counts, which is probably, I would say, the highest level of analysis needed. Sometimes it's just based on the Urban Land Institute or the Institute of Transportation Engineers numbers, and that I would say is a lower level of analysis, where staff essentially recognizes that this particular use here doesn't really, the ITE, there are studies on it, and those studies showed that parking isn't really required as the ULDR would require it. And that's what we did for this. So our parking study, it showed that at peak times, 9 spaces would be required. Right now, they have between 3 and 4 parking cars there at any given time. And they're not expecting any new employees with this warehouse. It's just storage space, essentially. So the analysis shows that there's 9. And also with the target, I saw that trips were mentioned. We didn't have to do a traffic study on this because of how small the project is. But just for reference, this project generates a total of 5 p.m. peak hour trips. So it's a relatively small potatoes project, and that's why it fits for this parking study analysis. And we're providing 15, so more than 9. Also in the staff report, it states that the city engineer and the city's transportation reviewer now are the same person. But it states that the city engineer agrees with our analysis and that we meet the requirements for a parking reduction. That's basically it.
That's basically it. Any questions for applicant's counsel? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to be heard on this item? I'll close the public portion of this item and bring it back to the board for a motion.
Okay. I move to adopt the resolution approving a site plan level 3, case number S-24071, based on the following findings of fact, the facts in the city staff report, and testimony heard by the applicant, and the board hereby finds that the application meets the standards and requirements in the ULDR and criteria for the proposed use at the cited resolution. The approval of the application is subject to all conditions in the city staff report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we vote? Jamie?
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Schuckman?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth.
Yes.
Passed 8-0.
Thank you all. And before I go, I'm not just an attorney that works in Fort Lauderdale. I own a house in Fort Lauderdale, and I know a lot of you guys are rolling off, men and women rolling off. So just want to say thank you for serving the city that I live in, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next case, UDP S23035. Jay?
035. This one, no. I spoke with applicant's counsel.
I spoke with the applicant's attorney. I spoke with the president of the CBA. I received a letter from them. I'm sure you all did too. And also I received an email or a letter from some opposition by one person.
I spoke with applicant's attorney.
Spoke with the applicant's attorney, and I did receive emails.
Site visit and communication. I received of an email, attended a CBA presentation, read a newspaper article, and spoke with applicant's attorney.
I spoke with the applicant's attorney.
A site visit, conversation with the applicant's attorney, attended CBA meeting, had conversations with the CBA president, and additional emails.
And I also spoke with the applicant's counsel and received that same email. So, Ms. Toothaker, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the board. Very happy to be here. I want to start by saying that our entire team is here, including the owners of the property, Harsh and Nick Patel and Bo Williams, who are the owners and developers of this project. The project is called 42 Hotel. And I'm just going to start with a little bit of context. I know you all did a site visit. This is an area of the beach, Central Beach, where the Celine project is going up. There's an AC hotel here. This is a very concentrated area of the beach where development was encouraged. Just for a little bit of context, you can see we've highlighted some of the buildings that are around it. The Celine project is 300 feet, 2 towers at 300 feet. AC Marriott is just a little bit to the east. And behind us are a residential building at 11 stories, another residential building at 16 stories, and we've met with all of our neighbors throughout the entire process. The address is 3001 Alhambra Street, and these are just some context pictures of 3001 Alhambra. The land use, as I said, is Central Beach RAC, and the zoning is ABA district, consistent with the zoning all around it. This is it's a boutique project. It's a boutique hotel. It's 15 stories in height, has 75 rooms, and provides 47 parking spaces. There are some bonuses that are being requested. They're laid out in the Central Beach, in this zoning district, that you're permitted to ask for these bonuses, so the project is designed to that. The first is an FAR bonus of 20%. It's a point system. I'm not going to read all the points. I will show them to you visually so you can see what they are. There is a tower step back modification on the west side, which faces Birch Road, and on the south side, Alhambra, and a minimum tower separation modification where 30 feet is required. We're providing 20. As I said, there are 47 parking spaces. They are valet only, and this area of the beach also allows you to purchase public parking, and there is a public parking garage that is being constructed right now with 77 parking spaces. That's part of the Celine project. So immediately across the street from that, there will be a public parking garage very soon. I think Celine actually topped off yesterday. So it'll be delivered hopefully in early in 26 is my understanding. This is as I said, it's a small project. It's really it's 26 net new trips, so small by comparison. So it did not require a full traffic and parking study, and it does meet water and sewer capacity. As far as the ground floor site plan, the code requires 20 feet setbacks all around, and it does meet that. It far exceeds the open space requirement. The open space requirement is 2,220 square feet. This has 6,081 square feet. That's because the developer has opted to push the parking underground, which allows for a lot of pedestrian connectivity. And you can see on the ground floor, there's just a lot happening on the outside. And I'll show you some images later that really show the enhanced ground floor. It meets ADA. And deliveries in conjunction with the neighbors, which we worked very closely with, the deliveries are scheduled in the morning or late at night. And all of the loading, the VRS, everything happens on the site. There's nothing happening on either Birch or Alhambra at all. Everything has been designed to be internal to the site itself. So here I was mentioning that the ground floor is very open and inviting. This is looking from Birch Road. You can see that really the beautiful parts of the building face the residential that are behind us. And it's got a lot of architectural detail, a lot of investment in what's happening. Expensive to put the parking underground, but it is definitely allowed for a much enhanced experience on the adjacent rights of way. And here's another image. The lobby is actually a jump lobby, so the lobby doesn't happen on the ground level, which also allowed us to really open up this space and make it very inviting and beautiful. And some more images. This is at the intersection of Birch and Alhambra, so again, just a little bit of a perspective. You pull back a little bit and you can see the lobby here in this image. You can see that it's got double high about halfway up the building. So here it is in the context of that's Alhambra. Behind Alhambra Place is the residential tower behind us. We work very closely with the neighbors in that building, and you can see AC Marriott to the right. This project does comply with almost every aspect of the technical aspects of the code, and the ones that it doesn't are where I was suggesting we're requesting those bonuses that were, the code lays out an opportunity to do that, so we do that. And that particularly as it relates to the floor area ratio, and there's a design compatibility bonus system that we meet, and I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. It complies with structure height, complies with street wall length, complies with all the setbacks, and as I mentioned, the step back and the tower separation. There's nothing adjacent to the building where the tower step back and the setback requests are being made. They're on one faces Birch Road, so it's adjacent to a right of way, and the other faces a parking lot that's to the north. Here I'm just showing you some of those design compatibility characteristics that relate to the FAR bonus. So the habitable space, on all levels of the ground to the rooftop. So that's one of the bonus points that we asked for, and the staff found that it was compliant with that request. The sustainable practices, this actually incorporates a relatively new but incredible drainage system where you have a tremendous, it's called Filterra. It's something that when we brought it to the county and the city, they were very excited about the opportunity to use this because it allows all that drainage to happen on site, and it does it through the use of plant systems, and it's somewhat groundbreaking. So it was something that we incorporated here, which was a huge addition to the site. Design compatibility, one of the things that we asked for a bonus on is because we pushed all that parking underground and we're able to open up the ground floor and have a tremendous amount of, really an excessive amount of open space at the ground floor, that allows you for a point system bonus, and we did ask for that, and staff did find that we meet that. 75% of the front facade at ground level along a right-of-way to active uses, obviously that's being met. On two sides, we have on the ground floor, we have a gym, a lobby, an outdoor plaza. You don't see a lot of that. Usually what you see at the ground level is you'll see a parking garage with a building on top of it, and this didn't do that at all. And finally, durable exterior materials, stone, masonry, metal panel. You can see that this building is it's a very expensive design. It'll be expensive to build, but this is 42 is a personal brand for the owners. It relates to some of their family's history, and this is something that they will own and operate. They care very much about the product and about the city of Fort Lauderdale, and are very excited to be here. And finally, expressive building tower top articulation. So we clearly meet that. You can see there's a lot going on. A lot of times you just see a parapet that hides, mechanical equipment, and here you've got an activated roof, and you've got a lot of architectural features and elements. So as I said, the step back modification, the site has some constraints to it, so we did ask for that step back. Instead of it being, obviously it's a very small, narrow building, so instead of the building stepping back 15 feet, it wouldn't be able to do that. There would be no building, so we're asking that the building on the street fronts be able to go directly up. And staff felt that was a sufficient justification. Again, you're allowed to ask for those justifications. You just have to show the situation. And finally. And I said the 20-foot tower separation, as I said, that relates to the parking lot that's behind us. The parking lot that's behind us is actually for the building, the Seasons building that sits to our east. It's separated from the Seasons building. That's where the residents of the Seasons park there. So I don't imagine they're ever giving that up because they don't have any parking in their building. And so that's the tower separation modification. We did have very healthy discussions with the Central Beach Alliance and with our neighbors. We did a lot of meetings with everybody. I'm very, very pleased to report that the Central Beach Alliance voted with a strong majority in favor of the project. I actually was just texting Bill Brown. He couldn't be here tonight because he sits on a city board and he's at a different meeting. And I asked him if he could remind me what the numbers were. It was like 175 in favor to I think it was like maybe 40 against as it related to the building. And then there was a declaration of restrictive covenants that I don't want to say that this is a definitive number, but it was something like 272 people in favor versus 1 against. So it was a a very strong majority of people in favor. And I know that we presented many, many times to the Central Beach Alliance. Bill's letter is actually in our backup, and I'm just to, it's a little small, but it basically says that on behalf of the Central Beach Alliance, they want to provide their strong recommendation in favor of this project. I will tell you that I do know that the board of the Central Beach Alliance voted unanimously in favor of the project and has actually been working with us. When we took this to the Central Beach Alliance, they were aligned with us. We did that together as a group. I'm very proud of that fact. We really worked. I will tell you that, you know, I get asked a lot. I know a lot of you do. I get asked a lot, how long does it take to get to the point where you're at a public hearing on a project? And, you know, because developers always want to kind of gauge a timeline. And this one has been 2 years, almost 2 years. We started in July of 23, and here we are coming up close on July of 25. So, you know, to the owner's credit, and we spent the time going to the neighbors again and again and again to make sure that everybody was satisfied. There are also a large number of actual support letters in the presentation. These will all be submitted. I'm not going to read them to you, obviously, but these will all be submitted for the record. I did see there was one email that I think some of you received about, you know, mentioning this building and sort of a general objection. And it was actually, I think, not just about this project, but another, threw kind of two projects in together. And I had spoken to the president of the CBA, and I'm not casting aspersions, but I don't think that the CBA even knew who that person was, because we worked so closely with the Central Beach Alliance to ensure that we had support before we brought this forward for your vote. We do accept all of the conditions of approval as provided in the staff report. That includes some payments and some other requirements. The entire team is here, the architecture team, everyone is here. If you have any questions at all, we'd be very pleased to respond to them. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant's counsel? Okay. At this point, we'll open it up to the public, if anybody wishes to have comment. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment section and bring it back to the board for more discussion or a motion.
I'm not making a motion, but it's a beautiful looking building, I must say.
Looks like I'm up on this one. I move to recommend approval of case number UDPS 23035 based on the following findings of fact, the facts in the city and staff report, based on the testimony heard by the applicant, and the board hereby finds that the application meets the applicable criteria of the ULDR cited in the staff report. And the board's recommended approval of the application is subject to all of the conditions included in the staff report. That's it.
Second. Motion. Is that a second? Okay.
Sorry, Patrick.
Any further discussion? Jamie, call the roll.
Mr. Scheckman?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
And Chair Wimouth?
Yes.
Passed 8 to 0.
Congratulations. So when I was speaking to Stephanie, being that she's got the next 3 cases, I asked her if it could be presented as one presentation with 3 separate votes, and she indicated she did not have a problem with that. Is it the board's pleasure to hear all 3 items at once and then vote individually at the end?
Yes.
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 That sounds like got some excitement there.
Yes.
All right, so disclosures, Jay?
I have to recuse myself from all 3, so I will sit off the dais.
All right, Jackie?
Is this 9, 10, and 11? What are we doing here?
This is 9, 10, and 11. This is the Broward Health.
Oh, you brought up. I spoke to the applicant's attorney.
I spoke to applicant's attorney and I did a site visit.
I spoke to the applicant's attorney, did a site visit.
Spoke to applicant's attorney in a site visit.
I spoke with the applicant's attorney.
Applicant's attorney and site visits.
And I also spoke to the applicant's attorney. All right.
Okay, thank you so much. Stephanie Toothaker on behalf of Broward Health, and I just want to state that Broward Health is here, is represented. The ownership, managers, architects, engineers, everyone is here. If you have any questions, thank you, Chair, for allowing us to present all three of these cases together. I think it makes a lot of sense to do that. As we discussed before I start the presentation, I want to just say we've been working, this is something we've been working towards for a very, very long time. Broward Health has a long-term vision that the properties that are owned by Broward Health and in South Broward, obviously around Broward General, that these properties be looked in a more holistic fashion than they have been in the past. Anyone who grew up here, I was born at Broward General, my son was born at Broward General. Anyone who has grown up here knows that, you take your kid to the pediatrician and you're basically going into a little old house that's been converted to a medical office. And, the time is now to really create a medical district, a medical health district. Some bigger cities, there's examples of those, everywhere where you go and you know that you have entered a health district. And so all of what you're seeing tonight is really a part of that overall vision. And we're excited to finally be at the point where we're presenting the first part. I'm not going to differentiate between, 9, 10, and 11 about which one it is, but I'll explain as I get to a slide. So these are the properties that Broward Health owns. I think that's probably not really known to most people, but when you actually look at it in plan view, you realize that this really is screaming for a health district, for something that works cohesively and together. And it's been growing, and the footprint has been growing. It's growing because there's a need and because it's such an important corporate and governmental entity that sits here in the center, really, of our South downtown. So there are really two, am I on the right slide? Sorry. Here we go. Nope. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. There are two separate efforts that are proposed. One is a land use plan amendment and a corresponding text amendment to the comp plan, which is obviously the book that goes with the map. And then there's also a medical office building, which is really the medical office building and garage, which is really the first step forward as we start to look at modern facilities. So the medical office building site plan is outlined in red, and that's on Andrews and 17th Street. Right now, it's a surface parking lot. And that is a surface parking lot that's actually servicing the physical therapy and orthopedic building that's immediately to its north. And so that is going to replace that surface parking that's kind of junky, actually. If you all did site visits, you saw it. And it's going to replace that with a state-of-the-art garage and state-of-the-art medical facility, and it will service not only itself, but also the other uses. So the other portion of this is as I said, is the land use plan amendment. So what you can see if you look carefully is these are the areas, not the medical office building, but the rest of it is the areas that that currently have a designation of community facility. It actually bifurcates the hospital. It's sort of a throwback to what was there before, and it's just really never been cleaned up. And so what we're proposing to do is to take that community facility and move all of the property into the South Rack land use designation, which I'll show you on another slide that you can see. So the future land use is South Rack. The current zoning is South Rack. Sorry, I'm like getting lost here in my own presentation. That's actually the medical office building. So the future land use on the medical office building is South Rack. The zoning is South Rack, and we are asking for prior zoning ZB. I feel like this is out of order. There's the existing sports medical office building, which, as I said, will continue to exist, and we've got other parking that will service it while this is under construction. Okay, here's the medical office building. Beautiful, beautifully designed. We designed this, as I said, to really be an extension of the hospital itself. It actually is developed to face the entrance to the hospital. As you know, you enter the hospital on the west side, and this building is designed to correspond so that doctors that have privileges in the hospital can go back and forth between the medical office building and the hospital itself. It's designed with 129 large rooms or 237 smaller rooms. It's 8 floors, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. No surgeries will take place. This really is just it's an extension of the hospital, but if any of those uses need to happen, they will happen in the actual hospital. The parking garage is smaller. The parking garage is 7 floors. And it far, far exceeds the required parking for the medical office building. It has 473 parking spaces. So the additional parking is for the other Broward Health uses that are in the vicinity. It will have east-west crosswalk to connect that building to the hospital itself. And I want to talk just now, I want to stop for a minute and explain why this is coming to you this way. In most of the RAC districts, if you exceed the dimensional requirements of the code, you ask for waivers, and those waivers go to the city commission. In this case, the existing zoning, the South RAC zoning for the medical office building, speaks to 10 floors. This is actually an 8-floor building, but the 10 floors is written as if it was a residential use. A residential use, as you know, because they come before you all the time, is usually 10 feet floor to floor. Even though we're only 8 stories, the building exceeds the height by 10 feet because in a medical office building, the medical office building requires a higher floor-to-floor ceiling. So even though the floor meets the code, the number of floors meets the code for both the medical office building and for the garage, the height itself doesn't, which I think is a little bit of a conflict in the code. And in working very closely with the staff, they felt that the best way to come forward on this was through a somewhat arcane section of our code that's called application of a prior zoning district. It's essentially a point system that allows you to look at what was the zoning before this area basically got downzoned from what it was before. It used to be CB zoning. And under the CB zoning code, we meet all the technical requirements of the code. So I think the cleanest way, in conjunction with staff, with the zoning director and with planning staff, everyone felt the best way to do this is to take this forward under that provision of the code. It does go all the way to city commission, which wouldn't be normal for a project like this. But under this section, if you allow us to apply that prior zoning district, the building completely complies. And the city commission also has to vote on that. So just a little bit about the building itself. As I said, it is adjacent to the sports medicine building, and that right-of-way that sits between the 2 buildings was actually vacated some time ago, so that becomes a private drop-off area between those 2 buildings and services not only this building, the sports medicine building, but also, of course, what's happening directly across the street with the hospital. And actually, you can see where the proposed crosswalk is there. That will be a future crosswalk. And I just want to share some images. It really is beautifully designed. It's been very, very well received. Although I will say, someone earlier said that they went to a public participation meeting and there was 1 person. I think we had 1 person on our public participation meeting as well. It's been very well very well received, not only in the medical office building itself, but specifically as it relates to the overall creation of the health district. These are just some more images of the medical office building. This is just a deeper description of what I was explaining before about the South RAC versus the CB and why we went this route to request the approval of the medical office building. The only change that we are asking for in your staff report, the staff always lists conditions of approval, and there's 1 condition that we're just asking for a slight change. I actually did meet with the assistant city manager to request this change, and it just didn't get captured. And the assistant city manager, Chris Cooper, had agreed that it wasn't going to be a problem at all. I think it just didn't catch up to the report in time. We are asking that as it relates to FAA approval, that the FAA approval letter that we would provide that approval letter before issuance of the building permit instead of before submission of building permit. That's a huge difference. And it's normally at the issuance of building permit. It wouldn't normally be required at the very, very front end before you can even apply. So we're just asking for that change in the staff conditions. And finally, This is just an overall map showing after we take that property out of the CF and into the South Rack, you can see then it becomes consistent in the whole area. Right now it's shown in green and it's shown in blue after it changed. And then the text amendment, because we are taking that CF, what was CF, into the South Rack, we just have to make a text amendment to the comp plan that matches that so that we don't exceed, there's no actual change, it's a paper change. There's no actual change happening on the site, but on paper it has to be changed to be consistent. And I think that's it. I think, as I said, we've had a large number of meetings already. We've worked very closely with the city getting to this point. We did have public participation meetings, and all of these, the map amendment, the text amendment, and the medical office building all do have to go to city commission, and then the land use plan amendment and the text amendment will go on to the planning council, Broward County, and back, just like every other land use plan amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chair, before you proceed, I neglected to ask whether or not you made disclosures on number 11, item number 11.
I think we made disclosures on all three.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions for applicant's counsel? Hearing, seeing none, we'll open it up to the public for comment. Mr. Insera? Do I need to plug my timer back in? You going to go long? All right.
Hello, my name is Ted Insera. I'm the president of River Oak Civic Association. Let me tell you, you cannot beat a Stephanie Toothaker presentation, hands down. There's no doubt about it. I first made my first site visit 69 years ago because I was also born at this hospital. And I make a site visit to this area every day, twice a day. I live right in this area. Can you put up that one slide that had kind of the overview, or one of the first ones, of like the whole neighborhood area? It was kind of like, oh, no, there you go. Yeah, I guess that's the one. But I just want to say this is a very much needed health district. But you got to realize that right around there is all residential to the west and to the east. You know, that Andrews Avenue has been coming up a lot on every one of these presentations, whether it's North Andrews or South Andrews. Now, I understand, like right along Andrews, they're zoned this way, but there's the elementary school that's right, Croydon Park Elementary, just on the other side of the railroad tracks. And I know down the line they're planning on one of the commuter rail station that's going to be right there in between here and the railroad tracks just to the west of it. And I know on each southwest corner and southeast corner, they're going to have some live local buildings that are going to be extremely tall. And this whole area is just going to be so inundated. And right now, this is where the trains actually stop in the daytime, twice a day. And the traffic gets backed up east and west tremendously. So it's a beautiful building. I can't knock it. It's in my opinion, it's just a little too large, and we're just getting so much in this one area that we just got to be careful, because like I said, it's all residential. There's an elementary school in there. And the one thing we have to watch would be the crosswalk going over there, because this is a very, very busy. Right now there is a little crosswalk going across there, and I tell you, you gotta hot foot to get across this thing. I don't know if we could have some sort of a bridge, maybe a raised one, or that crosswalk is going to be an extremely important area in this to make sure that people can get across Andrews Avenue. But I'm just saying, beautiful building, beautiful presentation. I think it's a little much for this area, but it's a give and take, because it is needed, but it is a residential area. That's one thing you got to take into consideration. And just bringing all this into this one area, Andrews Avenue and 17th Street, could be a little bit overwhelming for the residents of this area.
Thank you.
All I got.
Can I ask you a question,
Sure.
Mr. Insera?
Yeah.
Are you representing River Oaks tonight or yourself?
River Oaks.
Your association had
Yes.
a presentation, and so is River Oaks in favor of this?
We are not.
You voted and you're against the project?
Yes. The board voted yes.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard on this? Hearing, seeing none, we'll close the public portion, bring it back to the board for additional comment or motion.
I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Oh, no, I was just going to clarify that we need to take each item separately.
That's what I was just getting ready to do.
Okay.
Sorry.
I had a following up with Ted's question in regards to the crosswalk. Is that going to be signalized?
We have to ask for the crosswalk, so it's something, it's not, we can't just decide to put it
Okay.
in. We believe it's needed, so it's our intention to work with the county on getting a crosswalk. They're not easy to get.
Right.
So it's part of our plans to do that. We think it's needed too, because you'll have doctors, possibly patients, walking across the street. I want to just say, Ted, with all due respect, and thank you for the compliment, we were not, River Oaks is not in our notification area. We didn't make a presentation to River Oaks. I would have been happy to, but it wasn't. So if they voted, that's the first I'm learning of it this evening.
I just wanted to make sure that we were realizing that we needed to go through the county, et cetera, to make that
Yes,
happen.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then we'll break up these three cases. No additional questions, comments? All right, first case we'll consider is UDP L24005. Looking for a motion and a second. The second's usually pretty easy. It's the motion that always seems to be the hard.
So this is the board operating as a local planning agency with regards to the amendment of the future land use plan map.
Okay, and I think whoever makes the motion needs to also add in the last little blurb that Stephanie put up there regarding the FAA.
So this is a comprehensive plan amendment, the first case.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify the condition that Ms. Toothaker mentioned is for the case item number 11, not this case.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We didn't know. Good.
Thank you. I move to recommend approval of the amendment to the comprehensive plan case number UDP L24005. That's all it is.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Ooh, those seconds come flying.
Boom.
Any additional discussion before we take a vote? Jamie?
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next case to consider is UDP L25001.
This is an approval of a amendment to the text to the comprehensive plan that allows the increase in the square footage of the community facilities permitted use.
It still shows up the script is a comprehensive plan.
It is the same, yes.
Got it. Okay. Anyone else want to make that one? It's very short.
You did it very well, Steve. I think you should
Thank you.
do all three.
Okay. All right. I move to recommend approval of the amendment to the comprehensive plan, case number UDP L25001.
Wait for it.
Second.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right, Patrick. Any further discussion? Jamie?
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Last case, UDP S24072. Somebody like to make a motion, Steve?
I make a motion, give Steve a break.
There we go.
Motion to recommend approval of case number UDP-S24072 based upon the following findings of fact, the facts of the city staff report, and/or the based on the testimony heard by the applicant. The board hereby finds that the application meets the applicable criteria of the ULDR cited in the staff report and the condition that was added during the presentation by applicant's attorney in the timing of the approval by the FAA.
So may I suggest that you recommend the board recommends approval of the application subject to all the conditions as amended in tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Great suggestion. All right, didn't even have to ask for that second. Any further discussion? Jamie?
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes.
Ms. McCartney?
Yes.
Mr. McTeague?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
And Chair Weymouth?
Yes.
7-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you all so much.
Very
Right.
thorough presentation.
Should we
So,
ceremonially?
We will
carry this
miss
out?
you guys, the ones that are rotating off. Thank you for everything.
you're welcome, thank you. So I think we heard earlier, real quick, I'm not going to try to belabor this, but I think we heard earlier that there should be a communication to the city commission regarding the Northwest Rack and trying to get that so that it's not going to come to this board in the broken up. Is that what I heard? Huh? So I'm not sure what the directive is, if it's for us to you as staff or to us, to the city commission to tell you about.
So it would be a communication to the city commission because, the board doesn't direct staff. And I think what I'm hearing is a desire that some kind of comprehensive rezoning effort be undertaken in the Northwest Rack.
I second that. So is that what we want to communicate to the city commission?
Well, if I may, so the Northwest Rack land use goes as far south as Broward Boulevard and as far north as Sunrise. And so the Broward Boulevard corridor would essentially be a part of that. And I just want to clarify that, I just want to make sure that you guys are good with that as well.
We are now.
You are now. Thank you.
What's the eastern boundary on that?
So I believe the FEC tracks.
Okay.
The eastern boundary? Yeah.
To the,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
And then the western would be to,
Avenues of the Arc?
I
Okay.
believe it goes to the end of the jurisdiction. Let me double check. I can pull it up right now.
I think the eastern boundaries.
But Jackie, your concern is more of the unzoned areas in the land use, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to look at the entire
FEC, right?
land use, you just want to look at the unzoned areas.
What do you mean unzoned?
Well, there's no
already
zoning
zoned.
that is
Right.
compatible with the underlying land use. So RMM 25, RD, all that stuff is not compatible with the underlying land use. And that's what you guys were looking at earlier, where it appeared to be what we call spot zoning. So what you guys would like to see is something consistent with the underlying land use throughout the Northwest Rack.
Yeah, I just feel bad. I mean, I really feel bad that that even passed, quite frankly. I understand everybody's position, but
I mean,
I just think people should know what the destiny is. And we shouldn't, as a board, have to constantly, look at these little parcels. I mean, it should really be much more comprehensive, in my opinion.
yeah, it's really a decision to just not have this be a residential. We have what makes Fort Lauderdale special is the residential neighborhoods surrounding downtown. That's what differentiates us. So we basically decided today that this specific neighborhood's destiny is met, and it's if the group wants to support that, I don't know that I would, but I would support something west of 4th Avenue, east of 9th Avenue.
So if I may, so in terms of the planning effort that has already undergone, years ago, they've decided that the area would be in this Northwest Regional Activity Center. But within that area, that large boundary, it also includes some historic residential single-family home areas. And so what I would suggest, if what you're suggesting to the commission, particularly on that eastern side where development seems to be moving forward in the kind of spirit of what that planning initiative was intending to do, is that whatever you suggest for staff is that they take a comprehensive look at what the area would look like, if that's still the desire for redevelopment to take that kind of an approach all the way through the regional activity center, or if you're just looking at certain areas within the regional activity center.
I don't see how we can do this at this point. That approval tonight just pretty much wiped that whole area out. It's not going to be any single-family, two-story buildings or anything. It's going to be all built up. So I don't know how we can really solve it.
That's the intent of the extension of the CRA last night, was to make sure that they continue to develop and add 5 and 6 and higher stories all through that area in order to gain more affordable housing. I mean, that is the directive of the city, and why they plan that, and why that currently is not single-family home zoned. It's zoned as 5-story.
I understand what it was zoned, but I mean, we made the decision, so I really, at this point, whatever the rest of the board members want to do.
The question is, at what point are you to Dwayne's point, at what point are you suggesting that it stop? Because the whole portion that's zoned northwest extends all the way west, where there's all the single-family homes where they aren't necessarily RMM 25.
I think you leave that up to staff to figure that out. I don't think we, I think they're the ones that have the higher knowledge and all of these issues. So I think, right now, as we pointed out, we're playing in that same sandbox over and over and over again. So we know it's at least that far. I mean, I don't know how far west you go. Maybe go to 7th Avenue, maybe go to 9th Avenue. I don't know where it is, but leave it up to them to figure it out.
But if we don't specify how far west does it go, 95? I mean,
So,
I
as I
think we
was
need
saying,
more
the Northwest
information than to
land
try to do that tonight. I think it needs to be looked at with a better map, and I don't think we can do that in this one conversation now.
Right. I mean, you have the underlying land use that gives you the flexibility to use zoning as a further tool for planning. And if you are saying that the development pressures, that those individuals are taking advantage of the underlying land use to rezone various spots, and you want the city to take a closer look at those areas within the Northwest RAC that are seeing interest, that is something that can be done, and or you can just allow it to continue to move along as the market kind of drives the redevelopment effort based on the planning that has been already designated for the area.
Yeah, I don't think we know what we want at this point, quite frankly.
Well, we don't want to keep seeing these checkerboard things.
I agree with
So-
that, but the only way to stop that is to just change the zoning for the whole area.
Okay.
And then that,
Well, we're asking them to have
yeah,
planning.
it's not an easy
look at it.
situation.
I've got one more communication to the city unless somebody else has anything. And for me, I think that the city needs to find a more dignified location to hold these planning and zoning board meetings. And, if there were a shovel in the ground for a future city hall or meeting place or something like that, I wouldn't be saying anything. And I don't know where we're at with getting a new city hall or county hall or any of that. But, I mean, this is, to me, unacceptable to have the people that are trying to get these things done or not done or whatever, and have everybody sit here. I just think it's a poor presentation. It was fine when we got kicked out of where we were, but that was more than 2 years ago.
Well, supposedly they're going to be done, but it doesn't sound like they really are with us going to the police station in November, December. I don't see it happening. There's got to be another location where maybe a board that functions a little bit differently than us
Go to Holiday Park.
could give up their,
Go to
yeah,
Holiday Park.
yeah.
There's ample parking. It's
Yeah.
more central.
I agree with that, Mike. I hope everybody else does, and we should communicate that. But,
There's some of us rolling off, and obviously, I don't want to say I don't care, because
you know,
I
I've
do,
got it, you know, for those of us that are still on,
right. Well,
let's, you know.
I'm advocating for you, Jackie.
Yeah, thanks, Mike,
I'm
thank you.
advocating.
I tried when I first came back on, but I went south quick.
Mike, can I say one thing? Do you mind if I say one thing? Do you mind if I say one thing?
No.
Oh, I just want to say thank you all. Like this is my last meeting. 20%. Not to age anybody, but I spent 20% of my life on this board, if you can believe it. 7 years, and it's been a humbling, amazing experience to grow and to work with all of you and everyone before us. So thank you for the opportunity, and hope to stay in touch with you all.
So,
All right.
Thank you.
With that note, we are adjourned.
Wait,
No, we're not.
Mr.
well, you
Chair,
did,
Do I need for
go ahead,
the
Jamie.
city?
if you really want to send that communication to the city commission, you need a motion and a second. You need to vote on it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we make the communication regarding proper facilities for the boards in general, City of Fort Lauderdale boards.
I agree. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes, second.
Jackie.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we are adjourned.
Thank you all, and thank you to those that are also, this is your last meeting. I just wanted to say thank you all for your service and your dedication. We really appreciate you on the behalf of the staff in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you. So,
and the city attorney's office also expresses deep gratitude for your service.